I raised that glass of heirloom Cabernet at our family yacht dinner off the Hamptons, toasted to my legacy, and my daughter-in-law Sophia smiled right at me as she said, "To new beginnings, Viv, without you in the way." Yeah, that bitch just confessed to trying to kill me for my $8.5 million empire, and if you think a 66-year-old Brooklyn broad like me is gonna roll over and die, buckle up, because this ride gets darker than the Belt Parkway at midnight. Picture this: me collapsing on that teak deck, poison burning through my veins like battery acid. Sophia fake screaming for help while she presses her manicured hands against my chest in some twisted CPR performance. My grandson Jake standing frozen in the doorway, eyes wide, phone clutched in his trembling hand. But here's what they didn't know: those hidden nanny cams I installed after Lou died? Still recording. Every bottle swap, every whispered phone call, every forged signature on that fake will. You want drama? Wait till you see the midnight chase through Brooklyn streets with sirens howling like Coney Island on the 4th of July. The courtroom showdown, where I bury her alive in evidence so damning her own lawyer walked out. Your heart pounding yet? Good. That means you're alive. Unlike what Sophia had planned for me. I'm Vivian Rosenberg, Viv to anyone who matters. Born and raised in Diker Heights, Brooklyn, where the Christmas lights rival Vegas, and your neighbor knows you're pregnant before you pee on the stick. At 66, I'm the silver-bobbed red lipstick wearing CEO of Vivid Edge Media. Design, advertising, digital marketing. The kind of agency that makes Fortune 500 companies sweat when we walk into pitch meetings. I built this empire from a Park Slope basement 20 years ago, right after I buried my husband Lou, heart attack at 48. Left me with 2 sons, a mortgage, and about $300 in checking. People said I should sell the house, get a job at somebody else's company, play it safe. I said screw safe. Safe doesn't pay for college. Safe doesn't build generational wealth. Safe doesn't prove to your dead husband that his lioness of a wife can roar louder without him. So I took Lou's life insurance money, our savings, and every credit card that would approve me. Hired 3 designers, 1 copywriter, and a kid who knew HTML. We worked 18-hour days in that basement while my boys did homework upstairs. 5 years later, we moved to a loft in Dumbo. 10 years after that, we owned the building. Last year, Forbes called us one of the top independent agencies in the Northeast. Not bad for a widow from Brooklyn who never finished her marketing degree. My older son Marcus, he got it. Stayed loyal, worked his way up to creative director, earned every promotion, never asked for handouts. Married a kindergarten teacher named Beth who makes the world's best brisket and actually loves our family. But my younger son Daniel, he married Sophia 3 years ago at some overpriced Tribeca venue that cost more than my first house. I should have seen the red flags then. The way she looked at our office like she was measuring it for new furniture. How she'd ask pointed questions about succession plans and equity splits. That hungry gleam in her eye when Daniel mentioned my retirement timeline. Sophia presented herself as this successful lifestyle influencer. Organic skincare routines, wellness retreats, sustainable fashion, 40,000 Instagram followers and brand partnerships she name-dropped like designer handbags. What she actually was: a failed entrepreneur drowning in $450,000 of debt from a skincare line that crashed harder than crypto in a bear market. Designer clothes bought on credit. Luxury apartments she couldn't afford. A life built entirely on borrowed money and borrowed time. And she needed my company to save her. I didn't know about the debt then. Didn't know Daniel was covering her credit card bills, or that their marriage counselor had recommended bankruptcy. All I knew was my daughter-in-law smiled too wide when I mentioned updating my will. So 6 months ago, I decided it was time. Time to retire. Time to split the company fairly between my boys. Time to sail off into my golden years with my grandkids, and maybe finally take that Mediterranean cruise Lou and I always talked about. I planned this surprise reunion on my friend Richard's yacht, intimate family dinner anchored off Southampton, champagne, lobster. That special bottle of 1,985 Cabernet that Lou bought the year we got married, saved for a momentous occasion. I was going to announce my retirement, reveal the succession plan, split everything 50-50 between Marcus and Daniel, with trust funds for the grandkids. Fair, clean, the way Lou would have wanted. I sent the invitations 3 weeks out. Family celebration. Formal attire required. Sunset departure from Sag Harbor. Made it sound mysterious. Made it sound special. Marcus RSVP'd immediately with Beth and their 2 kids. Daniel took 4 days, then confirmed he and Sophia would be there. My grandson Jake, Daniel's 22-year-old from his first marriage, said he'd drive out from the city. I hired caterers, arranged for a photographer, even bought a new Street John suit in cream because Lou always said I looked like $1 million in cream. The morning of the cruise, I stood in my bedroom overlooking Prospect Park, watching joggers circle the lake. I felt invincible, proud, like I'd finally made it to the finish line with my legacy intact. I had no idea my daughter-in-law was in her Tribeca bathroom that same morning, crushing up oleander leaves she'd been cultivating for months, mixing them into a solution that looked exactly like wine sediment. I had no idea she'd already forged my signature on new estate documents that left everything to Daniel with her as successor trustee. Had no idea she'd been secretly photographing company files and meeting with rival agencies. I had no idea that when I raised that glass of heirloom Cabernet at sunset, I was supposed to be dead within 20 minutes. The yacht pulled into Sag Harbor at 5:30, golden hour painting the water like one of those Thomas Kinkade paintings rich people hang in their Hamptons beach houses. Richard's 52-foot Sunseeker gleamed white and chrome, the kind of boat that makes you feel like you've actually made it. I stood on the dock in my cream Street John suit, watching my family arrive. This was it, my grand exit, my perfectly orchestrated retirement announcement. Marcus pulled up first in his sensible Volvo wagon, Beth climbing out with a casserole dish because that woman cannot attend anything without bringing food. Their kids, Emma and Noah, raced toward me screaming Grandma Viv like I was giving away $100 bills. I hugged them tight, smelling Beth's perfume and Marcus's familiar cologne, Old Spice, same brand Lou wore. Sometimes my older son is so much like his father it makes my chest ache. "You look beautiful, Ma," Marcus said, kissing my cheek. His eyes were warm, genuine, no agenda, no calculations, just love. That's when Daniel's Tesla pulled up, all black paint and chrome accents that probably cost more than my first 3 cars combined. He emerged looking nervous, adjusting his tie like he was heading to a funeral instead of a family celebration. Then Sophia stepped out. Designer dress, Gucci probably, or whatever label she was shilling that month. Hair done at some Tribeca salon that charges $400 for highlights. Smile so bright and fake it could light up Times Square on New Year's Eve. "Vivian," she cooed, air kissing near my cheeks without actually touching me. "You look so elegant. Retirement suits you already." I hadn't announced my retirement yet. She carried a leather tote bag, expensive and carefully casual. Something about the way she clutched it made my Brooklyn radar ping. That bag sat heavier than it should. "Thanks, sweetheart," I said, watching her eyes. They were doing that thing. That calculating sweep of the yacht, the harbor, the other boats. Appraising. Measuring. Counting. Jake arrived last on his motorcycle, which gave me minor heart palpitations every single time. 22 years old, art student at Pratt Institute, too handsome for his own good with Daniel's dark eyes and his birth mother's cheekbones. "Nonna Viv," he called, using the Italian nickname even though we're Jewish because his first girlfriend was from Bensonhurst. He wrapped me in a hug that smelled like motor oil and youth. "You're gonna kill me on that thing," I muttered into his leather jacket. "Not today," he laughed. "Today's about celebrating you." If only he knew. We boarded the yacht as the sun started its descent. Richard had outdone himself. White tablecloth, real silverware, roses in crystal vases. String lights wrapped around the railings like we were floating through a fairy tale. I watched my family settle in. Marcus and Beth with the kids at one end. Daniel fidgeting with his phone. Jake exploring the boat like he was 12 again. And Sophia, always Sophia, watching me with those sharp eyes while her smile stayed pageant perfect. The caterers served appetizers, oysters, shrimp cocktail, those fancy little tartlets that cost $8 each. I'd spared no expense because this was my legacy. My final act as the matriarch of this family. I grew up in Diker Heights when it was still working-class Italian and Jewish families who actually talked to each other. My father ran a hardware store on 13th Avenue. My mother hosted Friday night dinners where the whole neighborhood showed up. They taught me loyalty meant everything. Family meant everything. You protect your own, you share what you have, and you never let outsiders tear apart what you built. I built Vivid Edge Media for my boys, for my grandchildren, for every generation that would come after me and Lou. Not for some desperate influencer with designer taste and bankruptcy-level debt. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The sun hit the horizon, painting the sky pink and orange and purple. Magazine perfect, Instagram ready. Sophia was already photographing everything, phone out, that fake candid pose she probably practiced in mirrors. "Should we open the wine?" Daniel asked, voice tight with something I couldn't name yet. "Not yet," I said. "Let's wait till we're further out." Richard fired up the engines. We cruised past other yachts, past beach mansions that cost more than small countries, past the life I'd worked 30 years to taste even briefly. The caterers set up dinner: lobster, filet mignon, truffle risotto, the kind of meal that says I made it and I'm celebrating. I noticed Sophia disappear below deck, said she needed the restroom. She was gone 7 minutes. I counted because something about her absence felt wrong, like a skip in a record you can't quite place. When she came back, her smile was wider, more satisfied. Her shoulders had relaxed like she'd just finished a difficult task. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Perfect," she said. "Just needed to touch up my makeup. The sea air, you know." I didn't know, but I'd find out. The caterers brought out the wine service. I'd specifically requested they use my bottle, the 1,985 Cabernet from Lou's collection, the one he bought the year we got married. 39 years old. Aged to perfection in our Park Slope basement turned wine cellar. I'd been saving it for something momentous, a toast to our life together, to what we built, to passing it on to the next generation with love and fairness. Marcus saw the label and his eyes got misty. "Dad's special bottle." "For a special night," I said. The waiter uncorked it with that satisfying pop, poured it into crystal glasses, the wine catching the last rays of sunlight. Deep red, almost black, beautiful. Sophia watched that bottle like a cat watches a canary. Her fingers drummed against her thigh. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, nervous rhythm. I should have caught it then, should have seen the tells, but I was too busy feeling nostalgic about Lou and proud of my empire and grateful for this family I'd held together through everything. The waiter handed me the first glass, then Marcus, Beth, Daniel, Sophia, Jake. Even the kids got sparkling cider and wine glasses so they'd feel included. I stood, glass raised, yacht rocking gently beneath us. Manhattan's skyline glittered in the distance like diamonds on black velvet. Brooklyn's somewhere beyond that. Home, always home. "To family," I started. And that's when Sophia interrupted with her own toast, her voice cutting through the moment like a knife through butter. "To new beginnings, Viv. Without you in the way." The words hung in the air like smoke after a gun goes off. To new beginnings, Viv. Without you in the way. Everyone froze. Marcus's face went white. Beth's hand flew to her mouth. Even the kids stopped fidgeting, sensing something wrong in that tone. that smile. I stared at Sophia across the table. She stared back, wine glass raised, that beauty pageant smile never wavering, challenging me, daring me to call her out in front of everyone. "That's a strange toast," Marcus said carefully. "Is it?" Sophia laughed, light and airy like wind chimes. "I just meant Viv deserves to step aside and enjoy retirement. No more stress, no more responsibility, just peace." The word peace sounded like a threat. But I was already drinking, already committed. The Cabernet hit my tongue rich and complex, exactly how 39-year-old wine should taste. Blackberry, oak, a hint of tobacco. And something else, something bitter underneath, chemical, wrong. I swallowed anyway because backing down isn't in my DNA. Raised my glass higher, made direct eye contact with Sophia as I drained half of it. "To family," I said firmly. "And loyalty." Her smile flickered. Just for a second. Then blazed back brighter. Marcus drank. Beth took a small sip. Jake threw his back like a shot because he's 22 and doesn't appreciate good wine yet. Daniel barely touched his glass, staring at his plate like it held answers to questions he was afraid to ask. Sophia didn't drink at all. The first symptom hit 3 minutes later, heat spreading through my chest like someone poured gasoline on my heart and lit a match. I gripped the table edge, trying to look casual, trying to breathe through it. "Ma?" Marcus leaned forward. "You okay?" "Fine," I managed. "Just warm out here." But I wasn't fine. My vision started doubling. The yacht's gentle rocking became violent spinning. Sweat broke out across my forehead, down my back, soaking through my cream suit. 5 minutes in, my hands started shaking. Not the old age tremor my doctor warned me about. Full body tremors, like I'd stuck my finger in an electrical socket. "Viv?" Beth stood up, alarmed. "You're pale." "Need air," I gasped, even though we were outside surrounded by ocean. 7 minutes, and the fire in my chest became knives, stabbing, twisting. My heart hammered irregular rhythms that felt wrong, felt dying, felt like every medical drama I'd ever watched where they flatline. I thought about Lou, about his heart attack at 48, about how he grabbed his chest in our bedroom and said, "Something's wrong," right before he collapsed. About holding his hand in the ambulance while the EMTs worked and knowing, just knowing he was already gone. Is this how he felt? Is this what dying tastes like? The deck rushed up to meet me. Or I fell. Hard to tell which. My cheek hit teak wood that cost $200 per square foot. Expensive way to die. Voices exploded around me. Marcus screaming my name, Beth shouting for help, the kids crying, Richard yelling something about turning the boat around. And through it all, through the chaos and panic and my vision going black at the edges, I heard Sophia's voice. Calm, too calm, practiced. "Oh my God, someone call 911. "Viv? Viv? Can you hear me?" She knelt beside me. I felt her hands on my shoulders, shaking me gently. Performance art for the audience. Then her whisper, so quiet only I could hear. "Should have signed the new papers when I asked nicely." My eyes were closed, but I could picture her face, that smile, those calculating eyes. The same expression she wore when she convinced Daniel to buy her that Tesla, to pay off her credit cards, to ignore the warning signs of their crumbling marriage. Jake's voice cut through, cracking with emotion. "Grandma, please, please fight, don't leave us." He grabbed my hand. His fingers were shaking worse than mine. Tears hit my face like warm rain. That's when something clicked in my brain. Some survival instinct buried deep in my Brooklyn DNA, where we don't roll over for anybody. The bitter aftertaste, the way Sophia disappeared below deck, her insistence on opening this specific bottle, her toast about new beginnings without me in the way. That wasn't wine aging, that was poison. And if I showed I knew, If I fought back right now with witnesses around, she'd claim confusion, medical emergency, tragic accident. Poor Vivian, so stressed about retirement she imagined conspiracies. I needed evidence. I needed time. I needed her to think she'd won. So I played dead. Went completely limp in Jake's arms, let my breathing go shallow, felt hands pressing against my neck checking for a pulse that was definitely there, hammering like a jackhammer, but I kept my face slack. Is she breathing? Marcus's voice, panicked father replacing grown man. Barely, Sophia said. Her hands moved from my neck to my jacket. Patting. Searching. Where's her phone? We need to call her doctor. Where does she keep her medication? She was looking for the will, the real will, the one I'd updated 6 weeks ago with my lawyer, splitting everything fairly between my sons with ironclad trusts for the grandchildren. The one I kept in a sealed envelope. In my purse, or so she thought. Her hands moved to my purse, dumping contents across the deck. Wallet. Lipstick. Keys. Tissues. Business cards. Everything but legal documents. I felt her frustration in the way her breathing changed. Faster. Sharper. Then her hands on me again, checking my pockets, my jacket lining. Getting warmer, sweetheart. The will was tucked in my bra. Left side. Right against my heart. Same place my mother kept emergency cash and my grandmother kept her apartment key during the Depression. Some Brooklyn traditions die hard. But Sophia wasn't going to search there, not with Marcus and Jake hovering, not with Richard screaming into his phone about Coast Guard protocols and the nearest hospital. The yacht's engines roared to life. We were turning around, racing back to shore. And somewhere through the poison fog and the fake death performance, through my terror and my rage, a plan started forming. This bitch thought she could kill me for my company? She had no idea who she was dealing with. The yacht slammed against the dock at some private Hamptons pier where rich people keep their emergencies quiet. I heard Richard screaming coordinates into his phone. Heard Marcus crying like he was 10 years old again. Heard Sophia's voice, steady and concerned, the perfect grieving daughter-in-law. I kept my eyes closed, kept my body limp, kept playing the role of dying matriarch while my brain worked overtime through the poison fog. Footsteps thundered across the deck. Paramedics. Their hands were professional, efficient, checking vitals while asking questions nobody could answer properly. When did symptoms start? What did she consume? Any known allergies or pre-existing conditions? I felt the gurney beneath me. The straps across my chest. The motion of being lifted, carried, rushed toward an ambulance, whose sirens I could hear wailing in the distance. But right before they loaded me in, I cracked one eye open. Just a sliver, just enough to find Jake's face in the chaos. He was close, leaning over the gurney rail, tears streaming down his cheeks, his hand clutching mine like I was already a ghost. I squeezed his fingers, weak but deliberate. Twice. His eyes went wide, confused, then understanding dawned. I mouthed 2 words. My phone. His hand moved to my purse before anyone noticed. Smooth, quick, the kind of pickpocket move you learn growing up in Brooklyn, where survival sometimes means light fingers. Then I mouthed 3 more words. Words that would change everything. Check the cameras. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens screamed to life. We rocketed toward Southampton Hospital with Marcus beside me holding my other hand, and Beth somewhere behind us in their Volvo. I don't remember much of the ER. Bright lights. Beeping machines. Doctors shouting medical terms I'd never heard. Someone jabbing an IV into my arm. Cold liquid flooding my veins. I remember thinking about Lou, about how this wasn't how I wanted to join him, poisoned by some failed influencer who married into my family for money. I remember thinking about my company, about 30 years of 18-hour days and missed soccer games and sacrificed vacations, about every client I'd won, every campaign I'd built, every employee who depended on me. I remember deciding that if I survived this, Sophia was going to wish she'd used more poison. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, I woke up for real. Hospital room, machines beeping steady rhythms. Marcus asleep in the chair beside my bed, his hand still holding mine even in sleep. A nurse came in, checking monitors, middle-aged black woman with kind eyes and a Brooklyn accent thick as mine. "Welcome back to the land of the living," she said, adjusting my IV. "You gave everyone quite a scare." "What happened?" My voice came out raspy, throat raw like I'd been screaming. "Severe reaction to something you ingested. Doctors pumped your stomach, ran a full tox screen. You got more lives than a Carroll Gardens cat, honey." "The tox screen," I croaked. "What did it show?" She glanced at the door, then leaned closer. "Between you and me? Oleander poisoning. Cardiac glycosides. Someone tried to give you a heart attack that would look natural for a woman your age." My blood went cold. Then hot. Then cold again. "How much did I ingest?" "Enough to drop a horse. But you must have spit some out or vomited quickly because you're still here." "Another 10 minutes, though?" She shook her head. "You'd be planning your own funeral." Marcus stirred, eyes opening. "Ma, you're awake?" "I'm awake." I squeezed his hand. "Where's everyone else?" Beth took the kids to a hotel. Daniel and Sophia went back to the city, said they couldn't handle hospitals. His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was stating facts about strangers. "And Jake?" "Outside. Been here all night. Won't leave till he talks to you." Something in his tone made me pause. "Send him in." Marcus hesitated. "Ma, there's something you should know first." "Send him in," I repeated. Firmer. My grandson entered looking like he'd aged 10 years in one night. Red eyes, wrinkled clothes, hands shaking as he approached my bed. "Nana," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." "For what, baby?" And then he broke. Collapsed into the chair Marcus had vacated, head in his hands, shoulders heaving with sobs that sounded like they were tearing him apart from the inside. "I knew," he choked out. "About Sophia's debts, about her plan. She asked me to help forge some documents, said it was just to protect Dad from legal troubles, said you'd understand eventually. I thought I was helping my family." My heart, still recovering from poison, cracked clean through. "What documents, Jake?" "Estate transfers. Succession plans. She had your signature on file from old contracts. Made me use Photoshop to copy it onto new papers that gave everything to Dad with her as trustee. Said it's what you wanted but hadn't gotten around to making official." "When?" 3 months ago." He looked up, eyes destroyed. "I didn't know about the poison. I swear on everything I didn't know she'd try to kill you. When you collapsed, when I thought you were dying, I realized what I'd helped her do." He pulled out my phone. His hands were still shaking. "I checked your cameras like you said. The nanny cams in your house that you thought nobody knew about? I've known since I was 15 and hacked your security system for fun." Of course he did. Kid's a genius with computers. "They're cloud-based. They caught everything from the last 6 months. Sophia breaking into your office at 2 in the morning, photographing files, meeting with your competitors, and the big one." He turned the phone toward me. The video showed my Park Slope brownstone, my wine cellar, 2 weeks ago according to the timestamp. Sophia, alone, swapping bottles. Taking Lou's 1,985 Cabernet, carefully opening it, pouring something in from a small vial, recorking it with professional precision. Then pulling out her phone and taking a selfie with the bottle. That same pageant smile, Caption visible on the screen: "Vintage wine for a vintage problem." She'd documented her own murder attempt. "I downloaded everything," Jake said. "Every video, every photo, every forged document with metadata showing when I created them. I'm ready to testify, to confess, to make this right." I looked at my grandson, at this kid who'd made a terrible mistake but found his backbone when it mattered most. "Good," I said, "because we're going to war." The doctors wanted to keep me overnight for observation. I signed myself out at 11:45 against medical advice, IV bruises still fresh on my arms. Marcus tried to stop me. "Ma, you almost died. You need rest." "I'll rest when she's in handcuffs," I said, grabbing my purse. "Drive me home or I'm calling an Uber." He drove. Beth sat in back with Jake. Nobody spoke during the 40-minute ride from Southampton to Brooklyn, but the silence was loaded. Electric. The calm before a hurricane makes landfall. We crossed into Brooklyn around 12:30. My city, my streets, my territory where I've fought every battle that mattered and won most of them. The brownstone lights were on, every single window blazing like Christmas in Diker Heights. Music drifted out, laughter, the sound of people who think they've gotten away with murder. "Stay in the car," I told Marcus. "Like hell," he said, killing the engine. We approached the front door. My front door. The one Lou and I painted robin's egg blue 23 years ago because I said it looked happy, and he said I was crazy, but painted it anyway. I had my keys, but I didn't use them. I wanted the element of surprise, wanted to see their faces when a ghost walked through the door. Marcus picked the lock. Another skill you learn growing up in Brooklyn that comes in handy at unexpected moments. The door swung open silent on hinges I'd oiled last month. We stepped into my foyer, my house, the place I'd raised my children and built my empire and mourned my husband. And there, in my living room, Sophia and Daniel were celebrating. Champagne bottle on my coffee table. The expensive stuff, Dom Perignon, probably from my wine cellar. Sophia wore a black dress, designer, the kind you save for funerals or victories that taste the same. Daniel looked uncomfortable in his suit, tie loosened, holding his glass like it might explode. But Sophia? She was glowing, radiant, already planning how to spend money she thought was hers. "To new beginnings," she was saying, raising her glass. "To Vivid Edge Media, under new management. To finally being free of that controlling." "Bitch," I finished for her, stepping into the light. The champagne flute shattered on my hardwood floor. Sophia's face went white, then gray, then a shade of green I'd only seen on people about to vomit. Daniel dropped his glass too, spraying champagne across my grandmother's Persian rug. "Viv," Daniel gasped, "you're alive." "Surprise?" I said flatly. "Disappointed?" "No, we thought," the hospital said. He was stammering, panicking, looking between me and Sophia like he was trying to solve a math problem, with numbers that kept changing. Sophia recovered faster, her face smoothed out. That smile clicked back into place like a mask. "Vivian, thank God. We were just trying to process the grief with a small toast to your memory. Daniel's been beside himself. Haven't you, honey?" She touched his arm, possessive, controlling, the same way I'd watched her manipulate him for 3 years. "Cut it," I said. "I know everything. The poison, the forged will, your $450,000 in debt, the meetings with my competitors, every single move you made for the past 6 months." "That's insane," Sophia laughed, but her eyes had gone cold, calculating, looking for exits. "You almost died and now you're having paranoid delusions. Daniel, call her doctor." I pulled out the envelope, the forged documents Jake had created, Sophia's handwriting on the notes, transfer papers with my copied signature. "Explain these." The room went silent, except for the grandfather clock Lou bought at an estate sale, ticking away seconds that felt like hours. Daniel moved first, grabbed the papers from my hand, started reading. His face transformed with each line. Confusion to realization, to devastation, to rage. You forged her signature. His voice was barely a whisper. You were going to steal everything? Daniel, baby, I can explain. This is all a misunderstanding. Your mother's confused. She's sick. I'm poisoned, I corrected. Different thing. Oleander specifically. Cardiac glycosides that should have given me a heart attack. Except I survived, and now I have proof. That's when Sophia's mask finally cracked completely. You weren't supposed to survive, she hissed. All pretense gone. Pure venom in her voice. You were supposed to die on that yacht, and everyone would think it was natural. A 66-year-old woman with heart problems. So tragic, so expected. Daniel backed away from her like she'd grown fangs. You tried to kill my mother? For us, Sophia snapped. For our future. She was never going to give you what you deserved. Always favoring Marcus. Always making you second choice. Right on cue, Mrs. Russo from next door burst through my front door that we'd left unlocked. 83 years old and 4 feet 11 inches of pure Brooklyn fury. Viv? I saw the ambulance earlier. Joey told me you died. I lit candles at Street Ephraim's. You're alive? Madonna Mia. She stopped, taking in the scene. Broken glass, spilled champagne, Sophia's face twisted with rage, Daniel crying, me standing in the middle like the eye of a storm. Should I call the cops? Mrs. Russo asked calmly, pulling out her phone. Already did, Jake said from the doorway, holding up his cell. They're 2 minutes out. Sophia's eyes went wild. Trapped animal, cornered predator. She grabbed something off the side table, my letter opener. Sterling silver. Sharp enough to slice envelopes, and apparently sharp enough to be a weapon. She lunged. I moved on instinct. Decades of self-defense classes at the Brooklyn Women's Athletic Club paying off in one fluid motion. Stepped left, grabbed her wrist, twisted hard. The letter opener clattered to the floor. Sophia screamed, off balance. I swept her legs. She went down hard on my grandmother's rug. I pinned her there, knee on her back, exactly like the NYPD taught in that civilian safety course I took after Lou died. You picked the wrong Brooklyn broad to mess with, I said into her ear. Sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights painted my windows. The cavalry had arrived. The cops were 30 seconds from my front door when Sophia made her move. She kicked back hard, catching me off guard. I lost my grip. She scrambled up, wild-eyed and desperate, and bolted toward my back door that leads to the garden. Stop her, I yelled, but Daniel just stood there frozen, useless. Watching his wife run like he was watching a movie instead of living in the wreckage of his own life. Marcus moved, but she was faster. Adrenaline and desperation make people superhuman. She crashed through the back door, jumped my fence, disappeared into the alley behind my brownstone. I was up and running before my brain caught up with my legs. 66 years old with poison still in my system, but Brooklyn women don't quit, ever. Ma, wait for the cops, Marcus shouted behind me. But I was already at my Escalade, keys in hand, engine roaring to life. Sophia had stolen someone's idling Uber from around the corner. Black Toyota Camry. I watched it peel out heading toward the BQE. I punched the gas. My Escalade jumped forward like a racehorse at the gate. The streets of Diker Heights blurred past. The Christmas lights people keep up year-round because we're extra like that. Past the houses I'd known since childhood. Past Street, Ephraim's where I'd buried Lou and prayed through countless Sunday masses. She hit the highway entrance doing 70. I hit it doing 80. Traffic was light for Brooklyn. Just after 1 in the morning, when even this city takes a breath. The Camry wove between cars. So did I, laying on my horn, flashing my high beams like I was driving an ambulance. She was heading for the Verrazano Bridge. Trying to get to Manhattan. Staten Island. Anywhere that wasn't Brooklyn, where everyone knows everyone, and you can't hide. The bridge rose ahead of us, suspended cables lit up like necklaces against the black sky, 2.6 miles of steel and concrete connecting Brooklyn to Staten Island. Lou proposed to me at the Brooklyn side overlook, said he wanted to build a bridge to our future. Now I was chasing a murderer across it at 90 miles per hour. Sophia's Camry swerved right, cutting off a semi. The truck's horn blasted. She recovered, accelerated harder. My phone rang through the car speakers. Marcus. "Ma, where are you?" "Verrazano," I gasped, gripping the wheel. "She's running." "The cops are right behind you. Stop chasing her. You could get killed." "She already tried that once tonight." Sophia sideswiped a sedan in the right lane. Metal screamed against metal. The sedan spun out behind her. I swerved around it, heart hammering. The Camry pulled alongside me. I could see Sophia through the passenger window, hair wild, makeup smeared, that beauty pageant smile completely shattered into something ugly and desperate. She screamed something I couldn't hear over the wind and engines. Probably threats, probably curses, probably blaming me for her own choices, like narcissists always do. "You Meshuggah wannabe!" I yelled back, knowing she couldn't hear me but feeling better anyway. "You fake Brooklyn fraud! You discount Canal Street Gucci!" The insults poured out in pure Dyker Heights street dialect, every neighborhood phrase I'd learned from 70 years of living in this city. She swerved toward me. Her Camry slammed into my Escalade's side. I held the wheel steady. 66 years of New York driving experience versus whatever soft California or Connecticut suburb raised her. I accelerated, got ahead, cut her off. She fell back. Tried to go around on the left. My phone rang again. Marcus. I ignored it. Then Beth. Then Jake. Then Marcus again. Finally, I answered on speaker. "What?" "Mom." Marcus's voice cracked. Not since he was a teenager had I heard him sound so emotional. "Mom, you're a warrior queen. You know that? A goddamn warrior queen." My eyes stung with tears I didn't have time to shed. "Language," I said automatically. "I mean it. Dad would be so proud. I'm so proud. Just please be careful." "I'm always careful," I lied, doing 95 across the upper deck. The toll plaza loomed ahead. Sophia had to slow down, had to choose a lane, had to make a decision. That's when I saw them. Black SUVs with federal plates. Unmarked cars. At least 6 vehicles blocking the toll booths ahead. She saw them too. Hit her brakes hard. The Camry's tires screamed. She tried to reverse, but I was already there. Pulled my Escalade sideways across her escape route. Boxed her in. Perfectly. The federal agents poured out of their vehicles. Guns drawn. Voices shouting commands that echoed across the bridge. Jake appeared from one of the SUVs, my grandson, the one who'd made mistakes but found his courage when it counted. "I called them from the hospital," he said through my window. Anonymous tip about attempted murder and corporate fraud. Gave them everything. The videos. The documents. The evidence is all uploaded. I pulled the USB drive from my bra, same place I'd kept the real will, a woman's best hiding spot since the invention of undergarments. "Tell them to add this to the file," I said, complete backup of everything. Agents surrounded Sophia's Camry. Pulled her out. She was crying now. Real tears for once. The kind that come when you realize you've lost everything and there's no coming back. They walked her past my Escalade in handcuffs. She looked at me through the window. All the beauty, all the polish, all the careful construction of her perfect influencer life stripped away to reveal the desperate, greedy, dangerous woman underneath. You destroyed my life, she spat. No, honey, I said calmly. You did that all by yourself. I just refused to die for it. The federal agent supervising the arrest approached my window. Mrs. Rosenberg, we need your statement. Downtown? I asked. If you're able. I know you've had a difficult night. I looked at Jake standing there, with evidence that would put Sophia away for decades. At Marcus pulling up behind us in his Volvo with Beth and the kids. At the Verrazano Bridge lit up behind us like a promise Lou and I made 40 years ago. I'm able, I said. Let's finish this. The trial started 4 months later at Kings County Courthouse in downtown Brooklyn. The building stood imposing on Adams Street, all granite and justice, the same courthouse where they'd tried mob bosses and corrupt politicians and every flavor of Brooklyn criminal since 1862. The courtroom was packed. Standing room only, like a Nets playoff game but with higher stakes and worse snacks. Press filled the back rows. My employees took up one entire section. Even Mrs. Russo showed up in her Sunday best, with a rosary in her purse, just in case divine intervention was needed. Sophia sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit that clashed terribly with her complexion. No designer clothes, no professional makeup, no Instagram filter to hide behind. Her lawyer was expensive, probably cost whatever remained in Daniel's savings account. But you can't polish a turd, as my father used to say, especially when the turd documented her own crimes on social media. The prosecutor was a Brooklyn native, Staten Island born, Brooklyn raised. She understood this case on a cellular level, woman trying to kill another woman for money. Tale as old as Cain and Abel but with better fashion sense. The people call Vivian Rosenberg to the stand. I stood, walked to the witness box in my navy suit, the same one I'd worn to pitch Coca-Cola back in 2003 and won a $2 million contract. Power suit for a power move. The oath. My hand on the Bible. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Easiest promise I'd ever made. The prosecutor started gentle. Background questions. Establishing who I was, what I'd built, why Sophia wanted me dead. Mrs. Rosenberg, can you describe your company, Vivid Edge Media? I built it from nothing, I said, looking straight at Sophia. From a Park Slope basement 20 years ago after my husband Lou died of a heart attack. He was 48. Left me with 2 sons, a mortgage, and dreams that weren't finished. My voice stayed steady even though memories of Lou always made it crack. I worked 18-hour days while raising my children, ate ramen for dinner so I could afford to pay my employees, maxed out credit cards to buy equipment, sacrificed vacations, sleep, and sanity to build something that would outlive me. I paused. Let that sink in. And this woman, I pointed at Sophia, thought she could steal it by poisoning wine my dead husband saved for a special occasion. Thought she could forge documents and play grieving daughter-in-law while I died choking on my own legacy. The courtroom was silent. You could hear the court reporter's fingers on the keyboard. That was it. Sophia's lawyer tried to rattle me on cross-examination, suggested I was confused, paranoid, that the poisoning was accidental, the documents a misunderstanding, my testimony colored by age and stress. Mrs. Rosenberg, isn't it true you're 66 years old and under significant pressure running a large company? It's true I'm 66, I said calmly. It's also true I remember every detail of the night your client tried to murder me. Age doesn't erase attempted homicide from your memory. It sharpens it. The gallery laughed. The judge banged her gavel, but she was smiling. Then came Sophia's defense. Her lawyer tried to paint her as a victim, misunderstood influencer, loving wife, woman driven to desperation by debt and family pressure. They showed her Instagram, her TikToks, her carefully curated life of green smoothies and meditation retreats and toxic positivity. The jury watched clip after clip of Sophia selling skincare products that didn't work, lifestyle advice she didn't follow, authentic moments that were staged down to the spontaneous laugh and casual hair flip. One juror actually cringed. Visibly. The cringe heard round the courtroom. Then her lawyer made a critical mistake, put Sophia on the stand. She cried. Performed beautifully. Said she loved me like a mother. Said the poisoning was an accident. She'd mixed up bottles while trying to surprise me with a toast. The prosecutor destroyed her in 10 minutes. Miss Chen, if it was an accident, why did you take a selfie with the poisoned bottle 2 weeks before the dinner? The one with the caption, "Vintage wine for a vintage problem"? Sophia's face went blank. Caught. No filter to hide behind now. Why did you meet with 3 of Mrs. Rosenberg's competitors in the month before the attempted murder? Why did you withdraw $40,000 in cash the week before, if you were broke as you claim? Why did you research oleander poisoning symptoms on your personal laptop 17 times? Each question landed like a punch. Sophia stammered, backtracked, contradicted herself. Her lawyer objected frantically, but the damage was done. Then Jake took the stand, my grandson, looking older now, more serious, wearing a suit that actually fit instead of his usual vintage thrift store finds. I helped forge documents, he said clearly. My step-grandmother manipulated me. Said it was to help my dad. Said Grandma Viv wanted it but hadn't made it official. I believed her because I was young and stupid. His voice cracked. But when I saw my grandmother collapse on that yacht, when I thought she was dying, I realized what I'd helped enable. Real family doesn't kill each other for money. Real family shows up. Like Grandma Viv showed up to every single one of my Pratt Institute critiques, even the ones at midnight when I was finishing projects late. I pressed my hand to my mouth, tears streaming. Like she showed up when my parents divorced and I didn't know where I belonged. Like she shows up every Sunday with bagels and lectures about finding a nice girl. That's family, not whatever Sophia was playing at. The jury was crying. Half the gallery was crying. Even the bailiff looked misty. Closing arguments took an hour each. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder in the first degree, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. The judge looked at Sophia with the kind of Brooklyn contempt usually reserved for people who stop at the top of subway stairs. 25 years in state prison. No parole eligibility for 15. The gavel slammed down like thunder. I tasted victory. Sweet as cannoli from Villa Bait Alba. Sweet as vindication after betrayal. Sweet as justice served Brooklyn style. Sophia was led away in handcuffs, finally silent, finally defeated. And I walked out of that courthouse into Brooklyn sunshine, alive, victorious, and ready to rebuild. The morning after the verdict, I walked into Vivid Edge Media headquarters in Dumbo with my head high and my red lipstick perfect. My employees stood up and applauded, all 63 of them, from the interns to the senior creative directors. A standing ovation that echoed through our open-plan office with its exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the East River. I'd built this, nearly lost it, and now I was taking it back completely. First order of business. I called an emergency board meeting. Daniel sat at the table, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 4 months, hollow eyes, wrinkled suit. The golden boy who'd married wrong and lost everything because of it. I'm removing you from the board, I said. No preamble. No softening the blow. Effective immediately. You enabled her. You looked the other way. You chose her over family. He didn't fight, just nodded. Signed the papers, walked out of the conference room and out of my company. Tough love, Brooklyn style. Sometimes you have to cut out the rot to save the tree. Marcus became Chief Operating Officer. Jake got an internship that would turn into a full position after he graduated from Pratt. Beth took over human resources because that woman has more emotional intelligence than half of corporate America combined. We restructured. Rebuilt trust. implemented new security protocols that would make Fort Knox jealous. Within 6 months, we'd signed 3 new Fortune 500 clients. Within a year, we'd grown from $8.5 million to $12 million in annual revenue. Turns out surviving a murder attempt is excellent publicity when you spin it right. Every business magazine wanted my story. Every women's leadership conference wanted me to keynote. I became the face of resilience, the Brooklyn widow who refused to die for someone else's greed. But the real healing happened over pizza. Marcus, Jake, Beth, and I sat at Grimaldi's under the Brooklyn Bridge on a Saturday afternoon 3 months after the trial. The same pizzeria Lou and I used to take the boys to when they were kids. "Remember the Feast of San Gennaro when you were 8? I asked Marcus, folding my pizza the proper Brooklyn way. "You ate so much Zeppel you threw up on Mulberry Street." He laughed. Actually laughed. The first real laugh I'd heard from him since the yacht. "And Dad carried me all the way back to the subway," he said. "Didn't even complain about the smell." "That's because he loved you more than he loved his clean shirt," I said. "That's what family does." Jake reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry, Nana. For everything. For being stupid. For almost helping her destroy what you built. You redeemed yourself when it mattered," I said. "That's what counts. Not the mistake. The recovery." We ate pizza and told stories about Lou, about growing up Brooklyn, about the family we were and the family we were becoming again. Smaller now, more careful, but real. The fake had been cut away. Only the authentic remained. I started mentoring young women at Bishop Kearney High School, my alma mater in Bensonhurst. Every Thursday afternoon, I'd show up in my power suits and red lipstick and tell them the truth. That success isn't a straight line. That betrayal happens even in families. That being 66 doesn't mean being done. That Brooklyn women don't quit just because someone tries to poison us. You're gonna face people who want what you built, I told a room of 17-year-olds last week. People who smile while sharpening knives. People who think age or gender or zip code determines your worth. I paused, letting them lean in. You're gonna look those people in the eye and say, "Not today." You're gonna fight for what's yours. You're gonna survive what was supposed to kill you. And you're gonna thrive anyway. They applauded, asked questions, wanted to know how I stayed strong, how I trusted again, how I rebuilt. "One day at a time," I said. One pizza at a time. One red lipstick application at a time. You just keep showing up. Now I walk through Park Slope like I own it. Because in a way I do. Every street corner holds a memory. Every brownstone tells a story. This is my neighborhood, my city, my empire. Vivid Edge Media is stronger than ever. My family is smaller but truer. My legacy is secure. And Sophia? She's rotting in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. Orange jumpsuit replacing designer dresses. Filtered photos replaced by strip searches and prison chow. Sometimes at night I think about her. Wonder if she regrets it. Wonder if she lies awake in her cell, realizing that if she'd just been patient, if she'd just been genuine, she might have had a place in this family. But greed makes people stupid, and stupid makes people desperate, and desperate makes people dangerous. I'm just grateful I was more dangerous. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. Whether you're in Brooklyn or Birmingham or anywhere between, whether you're 26 or 66 or anywhere in the decades between, betrayal will try to bury you, greed will try to break you, age will try to diminish you. Don't let it. Rise up like Diker Heights Christmas lights in December. Bright, unapologetic, impossible to ignore. Fight for what's yours, protect who you love, trust your instincts, document everything, and never ever drink wine that tastes bitter. If a 66-year-old Brooklyn widow can survive poisoning, outsmart a murderer, chase her across the Verrazano Bridge, and reclaim an $8.5 million empire, You can handle whatever's trying to take you down. Now, if you made it this far, if this story grabbed you, if you're rooting for Brooklyn broads who refuse to die quietly, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment telling me your comeback story, share this with someone who needs to remember they're stronger than whatever's trying to break them. Because we're all warriors, we're all survivors, we're all capable of more than the people betting against us could ever imagine. This is Vivian Rosenberg, Brooklyn born, Brooklyn raised, Brooklyn strong. And I'm just getting started. 18 months after Sophia's conviction, Vivid Edge Media hit a $10 million valuation. The trial publicity had done what decades of traditional marketing couldn't. Every major corporation wanted to work with the Brooklyn CEO who survived poisoning and came back fiercer. Forbes featured me. Fortune called. The Today Show wanted an interview. I said yes to all of it, not for ego, for proof. Proof that you can be knocked down at 66 and get back up swinging. We moved into a bigger office in Industry City. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor where container ships float past like promises of commerce and growth. The same harbor where Sophia tried to kill me on a yacht. Full circle. Brooklyn style. I decided to host a women's empowerment gala at the Brooklyn Museum. Black tie, 200 guests. All the successful women I'd mentored, worked with, and learned from over 3 decades. The night of the gala, I stood in front of that museum in a silver gown that cost more than my first car. My hair was fully silver now. I'd stopped dyeing it. Let the gray shine like moonlight on the Gowanus Canal. Age wasn't something to hide anymore. It was armor, proof of survival. Marcus walked me into the museum, his arm linked through mine like he was giving me away at a wedding. "You look like royalty, Ma." "Brooklyn royalty," I corrected. "The best kind." The museum's great hall was transformed. String lights, ice sculptures, a 12-piece band playing everything from Sinatra to Beyoncé. Women in designer gowns and power suits, mixing with young entrepreneurs in thrift store finds and student loans. I gave a speech, told my story, the poison, the chase, the trial, the triumph. I watched 200 women lean forward, holding their breath, living every moment with me. "Someone tried to bury me," I said into the microphone. "Tried to take everything I built with my bare hands and my dead husband's dreams. But here's what they didn't understand about Brooklyn women. About women, period." I paused, let the silence build. We don't bury easy. We bloom through concrete. We grow through cracks in the sidewalk. We survive what should kill us, and we come back stronger. The applause shook the museum walls. After the gala, after the photographs and the networking and the champagne toasts with wine I'd personally verified wasn't poisoned, I found Daniel waiting by the coat check. He looked rough. Aged. Working some entry-level marketing job at a firm in Queens. His Tesla was gone. His Tribeca apartment was gone. Everything Sophia had pushed him toward was gone. "Ma," he said quietly, "can we talk?" We sat on the museum steps. Brooklyn spread out before us in lights and noise and endless possibility. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything, for not seeing who she was, for enabling her, for choosing wrong when it mattered most." I let him sit with that for a moment. Let the weight of his choices settle. "You can work for me again," I said finally. "But not in the boardroom. Not in management. You start in the mailroom. $40,000 a year. You earn your way back up." His eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm a tougher boss than Sophia was a wife." He laughed through the tears, hugged me, and I hugged him back because that's what mothers do. We give chances even when they're not deserved. We hope even when hope seems stupid. 2 months later, Jake graduated from Pratt Institute with honors. His thesis exhibition filled an entire gallery. Digital art meets traditional media. Bold. Innovative. Pure genius. He dedicated the whole thing to me. A plaque at the entrance read, "For Nana Viv, the strongest woman in New York City, who taught me that real art, like real family, survives everything." I cried. Ugly cried. Right there in front of art students and critics and everyone who mattered. Didn't even care about my makeup running. Marcus handed me tissues. Beth squeezed my shoulder. Even Daniel showed up, standing in the back, proud of his son's redemption by association. Last month, I did something I never thought I'd do again. I boarded a yacht. Different yacht, different harbor, but the same ocean, the same sky, the same possibility. I went alone, just me and a bottle of wine I'd bought myself from a reputable dealer and verified 6 different ways wasn't poisoned. The sun set over the water, pink and gold and purple. Perfect. Like a painting Lou would have loved. I poured a glass. Raised it to the horizon. "We won, love," I said to the wind, to the waves, to Lou wherever he was. She tried to take it all, and we won. I imagined him smiling, telling me he knew I would, reminding me that Rosenberg women don't quit. The wine tasted like victory, like survival, like every morning I've woken up since that night and chosen to keep fighting. I realized something sitting on that yacht as Brooklyn glittered in the distance. Greed is loud, but it's fragile. It crumbles against real strength. Against Brooklyn grit. Against a mother's roar when you threaten her legacy. So here's my final message to every woman watching this. Every woman between 25 and 60 and beyond. Every woman who's ever been underestimated, betrayed, or counted out. Your legacy is yours to defend. Fiercely. Violently if necessary. Without apology. Don't let age diminish you. Don't let betrayal break you. Don't let anyone pour poison in your wine and expect you to drink it quietly. Fight back. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Chase your enemies across bridges if you have to. Testify in court. Rebuild your empire. Mentor the next generation. And never, ever let them see you quit. I went from attempted murder victim to empire queen in 18 months, from collapsed on a yacht deck to standing on one toasting my victory. If I can do it at 66 with poison in my veins and betrayal in my family, you can handle whatever's trying to take you down. Hit that like button if this story fired you up. Share it with a strong woman who needs to remember her power. Comment below with your own comeback story. I read every single one. I'm Vivian Rosenberg. Brooklyn born. Brooklyn raised. Brooklyn strong. And I'm just getting started. Thanks for riding with me. Now go build your empire and defend it like your life depends on it. Because it does.